1926. British archaeologist Sir Charles Leonard Woolley undertakes an extensive excavation of the Sumerian city of Ur.
The excavations, and as more and more rich funerary goods, pieces of art and jewellery started to come up, it became clear that this was a very important centre. And
Woolley soon realized that what they had found in the center of Ur was a massive cemetery containing more than 1,800 graves, filled with incredible artifacts and riches, including 16 royal tombs.
it was a very spectacular find and astonished the world. And we wrote about it in the press as these things became clear, and people rushed to get the newspaper to find out the next episode, because it was very dramatic, very exciting.
Woolley's team unearthed one extraordinary relic after another, including a gold cosmetic container in the shape of a cockle shell, a gold vessel in the shape of an ostrich egg, and the head of a lion made of silver, lapis lazuli, and shell.
Woolley's team of archaeologists excavated more than one grave with musical instruments and gold and jewellery. They found this classical Sumerian civilization, a very accurate one.
Ur was first discovered nearly 70 years before Woolley's excavations, when in 1853 archaeologists unearthed a ziggurat and found it inscribed with the name of the ancient city. It was considered an extraordinary find because biblical scholars believed it was the same city of Ur that is mentioned in the book of Genesis and was the home of Abraham.
The Bible tells us the story of Abram. Abram was raised in this city of Ur, and this is important because Abram is considered to be the patriarch of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Because the message of
Abram find was made relating to an event described in both the Bible and the Sumerian text, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
As Woolley and his team dug beneath the burials, they got to a depth of about 64 feet, where they found a layer of what appeared to be silts about 13 feet thick, suggesting that flooding had taken place at this time. And the team dug in other spots, 14 in all, and found the exact same thing in all 14 locations. And Leonard Woolley believed this was evidence of the Great Flood found in both the Bible and Sumerian texts, and that this was a real event.
But of all the discoveries made at Ur, perhaps none are more extraordinary or controversial than a large stone tomb containing the body of a Sumerian queen.
Leonard Woolley unearthed this fabulous, incredible tomb of Queen Puabi, which was an astonishing discovery at the time. They found her body intact, covered with gold ornaments, and wearing this incredible golden headdress with cylinder seals attached to her body that identified her as this queen.
Numerous artifacts found within the tomb identified it as belonging to Queen Puabi, and researchers believe she was a very important figure based on the staggering number of jewels that were buried with her. When researcher Zechariah Sitchin examined Puabi's skull decades later, he determined that while severely damaged, it displayed some remarkable anomalies.
As Zechariah Sitchin investigated the discovery of Queen Puabi, he found that her skull appeared to be elongated. This led him on a line of speculation that she must have been an Anunnaki human hybrid. Her characteristics looked almost alien. Was she possibly some type of extraterrestrial?
Queen Puabi's remains are now housed at the London Museum of Natural History. For years, Zechariah Sitchin implored the museum to test her DNA, but they refused.
Unfortunately, mainstream science said, no, this isn't worthy of our time. To me, this seems like, an eye-opener that we have actual remains that could be tested and possibly confirm an extraterrestrial their origin.
Could the remains of Queen Puabi provide incontrovertible evidence that the Sumerian civilization was the product of alien intervention? Ancient astronaut theorists believe another, perhaps even more important question lies in whether this mysterious civilization is much older than archaeologists have ever imagined. Most mainstream historians agree that according to the archaeological evidence, the Sumerians appeared in Mesopotamia around 5000 BC. But in the cuneiform texts that have been translated, the Sumerians themselves say that civilization actually began with their ancestors who lived thousands of years earlier, in a time before what the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Hebrew Bible describe as the Great Flood.
Some people have speculated that they may have come from a lost, sunken land. Now, this is an intriguing possibility due to flood myths and so forth. 7000 BC. This is a series of stone circle structures, avenues, and communal and domestic buildings. And so, if there was a submerged area which the Sumerians were said to come from, perhaps we need to look out into the Mediterranean.
The underwater ruins of Athens, which date back more than 1,000 years, serve as evidence that the Sumerian stories of a pre-flood civilization aren't true. Remarkably, even older stone structures have been discovered at the archaeological site of Göbekli Tepe, which is located just 400 miles northwest of ancient Sumer.
Göbekli Tepe was discovered in 1994 by Professor Klaus Schmidt, the German Archaeological Institute. It's like you finding huge standing stones, and many of these were carved into human form. They would have arms on the side of them, hands that come round to the front.
Radiocarbon dating of artifacts unearthed at Göbekli Tepe suggests the ancient site is over 12,000 years old, more than 5,000 years older than the Sumerians. But some researchers have noticed a curious connection between the two cultures.
Göbekli Tepe is a massive complex, and it features the carving of these three handbags that appear above this bird-like creature. And what's fascinating about this is that you can find carvings of similar handbags about 400 miles to the south where the ancient Sumerians lived. And there, the handbags are held by these winged figures called Anunnaki. This suggests that there is some previously unknown connection between the Sumerians and Göbekli Tepe. Maybe this is the answer to where the Sumerians actually came from.
Is it possible that the builders of Göbekli Tepe are the ancient ancestors of the Sumerians? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer might be found in the thousands of Sumerian texts that have yet to be translated.
Experts estimate that up to 90% of the original texts have been lost, but there must be a treasure trove still out there waiting to be translated, and they could contain information that will force us to rethink everything we thought we knew about our past.
The fact that the Sumerians were the first to come up with mathematics, agriculture, astronomy, engineering, our entire human civilization is built on exactly that. And they've received this knowledge from the so-called gods. And to me, these people that came from the sky weren't, ethereal beings, but extraterrestrials visiting from another planet.
Does the discovery of the Sumerians and the recent translations of their ancient clay tablets reveal that humankind and human civilization are the result of alien intervention? And might there be even more astounding revelations about our past contained within the hundreds of tablets that have yet to be deciphered? And the thousands more that may still lie hidden hidden beneath the desert sand. Perhaps it will be the oldest known civilization on Earth that provides the truth about humanity's evolution on this planet. And our close encounters with extraterrestrial beings. There is a line that runs around the world, and all along it, strange things are witnessed.
The 37th parallel is ground zero for some of the strangest phenomena that has happened in our world at this time.
There have been countless UFO sightings.
There is report after report of structured craft, disc shapes, strange colored lights.
Hundreds of mysterious animal mutilations.
We've been collecting pictures and data of unexplained deaths.
How many deaths have there been?
16
And even stories of encounters in the distant past.
The Kachinas descended from the sky at the Black Mesa, which just happens to be around the 37th parallel.
Could there be something about the 37th parallel that is attracting visitors from other worlds?
Plotting out these events on a map, it's a sort of UFO superhighway.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Trinidad, Colorado, August 22nd, 2011. At 11:46 p.m., this small town is rocked by a 5.3 magnitude earthquake, the most powerful to hit Colorado in more than a century. A little over 12 hours later, an even more violent 5.8 magnitude earthquake strikes the area of Piedmont, Virginia. While the unlikely epicenters of these two seismic events are 1,400 miles apart from each other, they both occur along the same line of latitude, the 37th parallel. This detail captures the attention of former sheriff's deputy and UFO researcher Chuck Zukowski, and sparks a revelation regarding his research into unidentified aerial phenomena and mysterious animal mutilations.
The fact that this earthquake activity lays along the 37th parallel is Chuck Zukowski to look at trends and patterns in the data that he'd been collecting over various investigations. Chuck found that sightings and phenomena such as cattle mutilations, various other things, all lined up along this one line that we refer to as the 37th latitude.
That were happening both in Colorado and all the way stretching to Virginia. And Chuck actually has a sister who was also a UFO researcher, so he called her up and he started to look at each of these points of where all these different UFO and paranormal activity were taking place.
Zukowski's sister, Debbie Ziegelmeyer, is the director of the Missouri branch of UFO, or the Mutual UFO Network. Over the years, the two have amassed data on thousands of UFO sightings.
In 2011, my brother Chuck called me one evening and we started pinpointing the different locations on the map. We have a lot of activity going on, especially starting with my state of Missouri. And then we started expanding farther out. We noticed activity over Colorado, and then we started spreading farther
every case they had documented happened either on or very near this line.
Chuck Sikowski is a highly respected UFO investigator with a lot of boots on the ground experience, as is his sister Debbie. And they presented to the world the idea that we could draw a straight line linking all these different incidents at different times: UFO sightings, abductions, cattle mutilations, paranormal phenomena. Of course, it was a real attention getter. So the 37th parallel has become known as a sort of UFO superhighway.
Could a so-called UFO superhighway really exist along the 37th parallel? For UFO researchers, the evidence is highly compelling, because among the events that Zukowski in UFO reports on record, including one of the only encounters in which a witness lost his life. Wilmington, Ohio, January 7th, 1948. At Clinton County Army Airfield, eyewitnesses report seeing a circular object in the sky that is described as a flaming red cone trailing a gaseous green mist. Alarmed by the sightings, the Army instructs a squad of airborne F-51D Mustangs under the command of Captain Thomas Mantell to investigate.
4 fighters led by Captain Mantell were dispatched to try to follow or intercept this object. The object was massive. It was about 300 feet in diameter and traveling at about 500 miles per hour.
When they attempted to intercept this object, it was too fast. And it was also climbing in altitude.
Everyone except Mantell stopped ascending at a certain point due to problems with oxygen. Mantell pushed his plane, climbing higher and higher towards the object. However, radio contact with Mantell was lost.
According to reports, as Mantell pursued the UFO, he lost control of the plane and crashed into the ground.
The report was that he went up too high. At 25,000 feet, he lost oxygen. They believe that he passed out and crashed into the ground.
The Mantell incident is an important one, and that is because it involves a UFO fatality. And it was because of this UFO fatality that the Air Force began Project Blue Book to look into these UFO incidents.
The Mantell incident occurred over a stretch of many miles, mostly along the 37th parallel, with official military UFO encounters ever recorded. The mystery of the 37th parallel also includes a UFO incident that occurred 25 years later and lasted for months.
One of the most fascinating areas along the 37th parallel line is Piedmont, Missouri. The sightings actually started in 1973. But the one main sighting that people began focusing on happened on February 21st, to be exact. Coach Reggie Bones was at a basketball game with his team. As they were coming back home at about 8:30 at night, they saw strange lights in the distance. They were colored lights flashing.
They saw that the lights weren't just a single color in the sky, but were distinct colored lights: red, green, amber, and white. Other residents in the area also saw the lights.
The Mantell incident and the Piedmont sightings are just 2 of hundreds of UFO encounters that Zukowski also found along this latitude is Cape Girardeau, Missouri, where a UFO crash was reported as early as 1941, and one of the most famous UFO incidents on record, the 1947 Roswell crash, occurred just over 100 miles south of this line.
It's pretty amazing to think that 2 of the biggest UFO events that essentially kicked off the modern ufology field, Roswell and Camp Girardeau, happened to be on or around the 37th parallel. So you have to wonder why. Is it some sort of a supernatural force, or could it be something to do with extraterrestrials?
Is there a reason why so many UFO incidents seem to occur along a particular line of latitude? And if so, what could it be? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining another mysterious phenomenon that's frequently reported at sites located on the 37th parallel. Animal mutilations. Since 1967, an estimated 50,000 bizarre animal mutilations have been reported in the United States, and many within just a few miles of the 37th latitude. Chuck Zukowski has investigated dozens of these mysterious occurrences, including an incident at the Miller Ranch in Trinidad, Colorado, where no less than 16 cattle mutilations have been discovered since the mid-1990s.
The Miller Ranch is a pretty amazing place. There's a lot going on there. But it's not just the cattle mutilations, which is disturbing enough, but these electromagnetic anomalies, sightings of UFOs and orbs, power fluctuations. There's a lot to take in and a genuine mystery there.
And observed injuries consistent with being dropped from a significant height. The cow also had organs removed and what looked like surgical incisions, consistent with other cattle mutilation cases. And in 2020, the Millers discovered another mutilated cow in almost the exact same condition. November 9th, 2020.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
UFO researchers Dr. Travis Taylor and Nick Pope visit Tom and Sally 37th parallel.
So you guys have had some issues with your cattle? Tell us some of this.
We have. Yeah, we've had probably 16 head of cattle mutilated already.
Since when?
We started.
And I understand you've been compiling a lot of information about this in a dossier of evidence.
We have taken multiple pictures.
Can we take a look?
We've got them in the back here.
Nick and Travis are anxious to see the photographs the Millers have taken of the mysterious events that have occurred on their ranch over the past 2 decades.
So what have you got?
These are all very typical of what we find. The ear is removed and the eye is removed. You see that the mouth is clear cut across. Predator would tear. Sure. There are no tears on any of these animals.
Were there any claw marks or teeth marks on the bones? Because you'd typically see that with a predator.
None.
I have to ask, have you ever had a veterinarian come in and look at these and maybe do an autopsy or anything like that?
Well, actually, one time we had a small calf that was mutilated, and they took it to Fort Collins, to a lab up there. They couldn't believe the items that were missing. It was the heart, the lungs, the liver, and they had just a little bitty hole in the idea. And that's where they removed all of these items.
Well, did they say it looked like they'd used scalpels or other surgical instruments or what?
They said it was laser cut.
Laser.
Now, all these things tend to be interconnected. Have there been other strange phenomena of any kind in this area?
We have seen lights that have come up out of the river and have taken off.
Very sudden, or at what kind of speed?
Real fast. In an instant, they were gone.
Wow.
And there's another phenomenon. We have seen unexplained lights, orbs on our windows.
Can we go see that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Since right at this shaky stomach.
And then morning came and he couldn't get up, couldn't walk.
No, my leg was just, it was just like real stiff, like paralyzed or something.
Really?
And we went to a doctor, and he put a steroid shot in there, and the next morning I was fine.
Any diagnosis?
Treat the symptom.
Yes, that was it.
Well, if you don't mind, I've got a magnetic measurement system on my phone. I'd like to take some measurements as we walk around and look at it.
Sure.
That's all right. This is really interesting. I'm getting almost zero magnetic field. Usually, wherever I go, there's at least a measurable magnetic field. And I probably could walk anywhere on the planet, and I'll measure typically like around 0.9 on this meter, and I'm seeing like 0.1. So maybe, what is it? If I step here, it comes back to normal, what I'd expect. But look at what yeah, when I step back closer to the house, it goes almost to zero again. Well, that's odd.
Is it odd because the house could block a reading?
Well, let me walk this way and see if it could be the building. And no, when I walked it here, just to this distance, it jumps back to normal. So there's something about this spot right in front of the window.
So right where those strange lights were, right outside this very window.
I'm not sure what would cause the instrument to do what we just saw. To me, that's a very unusual anomaly. And is it connected to the fact that Tom saw orbs outside the window right at that spot? That we don't know. I'd really like to go look at the last location you had a cattle mutilation.
Okay, we can do that.
Tom and Sally Miller lead Nick and Travis across their 1,400-acre ranch to the site where less than a month ago they discovered what appears to be the most recent victim of cattle mutilation.
That's it.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
I wasn't expecting it to be like that. That's something. Look at this, how it looks. It looks clean cut all the way around that there.
Looks like someone has said, let's take the top off.
And it looks like it rolled up and was cauterized too. Well, you don't see tears like tooth marks or claw marks. That was cut by something.
Yeah.
The ear looks like it was just like it was shaved off or something.
Yeah, and that's how most all of the mutilated cows are. At least one ear is just shaved off like that. The jaw is just like that. The tongue is
Well, that's certainly not something that said, I'm hungry, I want to kill that thing and eat it. Right? I mean, that's not, that looks more like a science experiment. Sure.
You know what we can do? If you want, we'll roll it over and see if there's an imprint.
All that's left of this thing is a shell. But you know what's interesting is the bones aren't broken, but look how flat. It's like it's pushed into the rib cage.
I've had cows die naturally, and they don't look that way on the other side.
It's like it was dropped.
That is so bizarre. You know, how it was done is completely unexplainable right now. What would have done it, or who, is completely unexplainable to me. I think there's something really weird going on here that we should try to figure out how to get to the bottom of it. Thanks for showing us this, guys.
We really appreciate it.
The Miller Ranch is just one of many ranches along the 37th parallel that experience strange aerial phenomena, electromagnetic anomalies, and cattle mutilations. Could the locations of these sites reinforce the possibility of a so-called UFO superhighway? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest further evidence can be found within the stories of the Native American tribes who have occupied lands along this latitude for centuries, and who tell stories of otherworldly beings descending from the sky. Black Mesa. The Native American Hopi tribe has called these peaks of the Colorado Plateau home for more than 1,000 years. High above the Arizona desert, the Black Mesa encompasses more than 1.5 million acres, with the northernmost portion running directly along the 37th parallel. According to the Hopi, this is where their star ancestors descended from the heavens.
The Hopi say that after journeying through 3 worlds, they emerged into the 4th world at the Black Mesa, where they were met by Masson, the caretaker of Earth, who told the Hopi that they were to be stewards of the Earth and that the Black Mesa was to be literally the center of the universe for them.
The Hopi commemorate Masson and other